Okay, hello everyone. This is me, your host Iman Leadershipwali, and welcome to my another podcast episode series, Leader of Tomorrow. So, through this session, I connect with inspiring pupils to explore how learning, experience, and technology can change life. Let's begin today's conversation and discover something new together. So, today I have a very interesting and special guest in front of me. So our guest today is Mark, a main farm expert with 49 years of experience across major industries. He has worked in roles like DBA, security, and system development, and is also a digital creator and a strong communicator. So welcome to the show and Assalamu alaikum. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing well. It's been one of those eventful weeks, but we always work and always try to hit the ground running. Look for the optimistic and wake up and make sure that everything on your list is on it and ready to be met. Yeah.
Thank you. So sir, can you please introduce yourself with me and my viewers?
I'm sorry.
Okay. My question is that can you please introduce with me? Can you please introduce yourself with me and with my viewers?
Oh, yes. Yeah, my name is Mark Novak. I have been in IT for about 40 years. I have worked in various areas. I started out for almost 28 years in a manufacturing role, developing and supporting systems that would support that for the manufacturing environment. After that, I got opportunities to work in IT roles, mainframe mainly for the pharmaceutical industry and also for the banking industry and telecommunication industry. I've worked in various areas, always connected with mainframe technology, always connected with some of the older technologies, MQ databases, file transfers, working with various customers, developing various systems over the years. And I've been able to make a difference on things. I basically spend a lot of time developing things, but even within my technical role, I'm always interfacing with customers, and I am always trying to communicate technical items for people who are not necessarily in a technical role. I've also created other items. I've also created things within the digital environment, within social media, to try to reach out to other individuals. So yeah, my apologies. I know I'm rambling a little bit.
No, no, it's fine. It's really inspiring words, and you have a lot of huge experience for your field. So thank you so much for brief introduction with me and my viewers. So my first question is that is what inspired to begin your career in mainframe technology, and what kept you motivated for so long time?
Okay, what got me into the field basically is that during the early '80s, I was in college, and there was a particular teacher who inspired me. He basically talked about the area of information technology, and he talked about that as an area in which people can. It was the future back then. And one of the things that I liked about it is that you had roles that you either had the chops or you didn't. But the metric wasn't necessarily soft skills. The metric was results, and that's one of the things that I liked is that people will tolerate an awful lot of other personality traits, and I was a little bit weak in other personality traits at the time. If you could do something tangible, so it was a field in which you would be producing tangible results that were useful, that would work in the long term, and that the metrics were not necessarily soft metrics. The metrics were more of a hard metrics based around results. And I like the idea of basing things around results. So I basically went into that area and started with a manufacturing company with the idea of being able to produce tangible results for other individuals and the metrics. If something is going wrong, that you could go in computers you could fix it, and it was clear that you had fixed the result.
Interesting. It's really interesting and wonderful points. I completely agree with that. Sir, uh, can you share one major transformation you witnessed it in teach from the 1970s to now?
Okay, one of the biggest differences um, now compared to then was is that back in the late 70s and the early 80s, computers were still one of those mystery things. There started to be microcomputers that were being sold, and you would see microcomputers. They didn't look like today's computers. They tended to be a series of boxes, and those computers, even though they were being sold back then, they tended to be glorified computers. So at the microcomputer level, people were working on glorified calculators, and the graphics weren't all that good. As far as computers that were doing something useful, there was still a mysticism about these big boxes that would be able to do things. That literally it was the mainframes. And I went into the mainframe industry, and back then it was a perception of the mainframe was a big centralized computer with a lot of green screens. There were very few PCs about, and some of the PCs that were about were interfacing with the mainframes, were mini computers. By the time it got to this point, computers are everywhere. They're on your phone, they're on your tablet. You can do a lot of things with computers. People take computers for granted, but the underlying technology that the mainframe does is still more or less the same. You still have to connect with centralized database repositories. You still have to do the communication and a lot of large bandwidth processing. So even though people associate these GUI interfaces, a lot of the heavy lifting is still being done by the mainframes or cloud machines in the background. And that's the field where I work.
Wow, it's really wow. Can you hear me properly?
Oh yes, I can hear you properly.
Okay, okay, that's
I'm
great.
sorry if I have any audio. Do I have any audio difficulties on my side?
No, no, it's fine. It's good. So, sir, I'm moving my main major questions for education department. So, how did your education at Texas Tech University shape your professional mindsets?
Well, one of the things that happens within the university setting, at least at that time, is that universities would allow you to do a deep dive into information. When I was doing computer programming, I would have that was one of the fields in which you would have to invest an awful lot of time in a shared terminal room, and back then you weren't connecting remotely with computers. You were connecting computers they had these rooms that were full of dozens, if not 100 terminals. And you would be sitting at one of those terminals and you would be more or less in a social gathering. So not only were you programming, but there were an awful lot of other people programming in that particular environment using the computer. So it was a so even though you didn't have social media, it was an opportunity for you to gather with others, and you were able to share an awful lot. So the university setting allowed you to get together with a lot of people of similar interests. But the other thing the university setting did is that it broadened your experience. You were not just exposed to technical skills, you were exposed to soft skills, you were exposed to hard learning skills. So it gave you time to focus and grow in that particular area, and it was something that you brought with you when you left that college and went on into the working world.
Your words too inspired me, and I really you explain like that you explained very well and beautiful. So my another question is that, sir, what important does lifelong hold in your life and career?
So, what was the question again? My apologies, I didn't quite understand.
Okay, okay. What importance does lifelong learning hold in your life and career?
Oh, okay, yeah, lifelong learning. Yes, basically, what has happened is that even the fact that you do have a basic skill set when you have left college, that skill set needs to be updated. So I've exposed myself to various technologies and various learning opportunities. One of the things that I was a little bit weak when I came out of college was business and professional communication. I could write, but I couldn't necessarily write, you know, in the standard, to communicate technical things, less detail. So I learned how to communicate better on the technical level. I learned how to interface with people on a personal level. Now, lifelong learning was more than just expanding your personal skills. It was also being aware of the technologies in the industry, seeing what was going on. When I first came out, I went into the aerospace industry and they were working with metals, and I got the opportunity to transition computer systems from developing manufacturing with metals to manufacturing using composite parts in which you had to cure things, you had to cook things, you had to keep track of various times. So I would be aware of what was happening in the world, and I would be ready for that technology wise. I would say, well, what is happening? What do I need to learn? But a lot of times you would just learn things for the sake of learning. And a lot of times that would benefit you because your field was normally not just touched by the technology you're working with. Your field was touched being in the awareness of the world about you.
All right, thank you so much again, sir, for deeply answered. And so, my another question is that what advice would you like to give young students about choosing a career in tech and staying commitment?
Oh, choosing a career in technology, what I would basically say is that within the technology, sorry, you have various skill sets. Now, a lot of people want to work at that interface level. A lot of people want to work at that app level, the level in which you are looking at particular screen. But what I would recommend is that the real work and the real heavy lifting in areas isn't at the app level, isn't at the interface level. It's at the underlying storage, the technology level, the file level, understanding how things communicate in a broad sense to the mainframe, understanding database technologies like DB2 and Oracle, understanding how those particular data structures are being built, that gives you a longer term option, that the half-life of those particular skills is much longer than the half-life of an interface. I work with people who worked at the interface level, and a lot of times they have to retrain themselves and develop and learn new skill sets. Whereas if you're in the technology, underlying technology area, the MQ level, the database level, the file level, that particular technology tends to be longer term, and it has a longer and better and it's steadier work. So the the best part, the long term, it is better to go under the interface, the boring level, rather than the cool interface level. Okay, I rambled again. Sorry about that.
No, no, you are saying very well. I'm agree with you and your point. So, dear students, please noted this all points Mark discussed with us. So, now it's into part number three, AI era, future of tech. So, my question is that how do you see AI working together with traditional mainframe system in the future?
Oh, yeah, that is the big elephant in the room, so to speak, is AI technology. And one of the things that people are noticing about AI technology is that AI technology is only as good as its inputs. And people are finding that AI technology can give you a solution, but not necessarily the best solution, or not necessarily a solution that makes sense. Years ago, when AI technology was relatively young, they were doing some of that AI technology in engineering level, in which someone would ask for, they would put in, they would say, I need something to do this, and the AI would come up with the design that could technically do that, and it would look fine, and then all of a sudden people would see in that design, they would say, wait a minute, how does this arm move at all? It seems to be locked into place. How is this working? Is this strong enough? And the one thing that people bring to the table that AI is still lacking, and AI will probably always be lacking, is the fact that you need to be able to make these reach a real world challenge. Now, nowadays it is real easy to write a response using AI technology to a memo or an email that you're getting. But even if it's generating a response, you still need to read through that response. A lot of times, what I'll do is I will let AI generate something, and then I will go in and I would have to edit it and come up with some personal touches and take away a little bit of the wordiness, make it look like there is still a human at that other end. So AI does a lot. It's a 95% solution, but humans are still there for the last 5%.
You're right. It's I know about that. Like AI, it's 95%. Yes, I agree with that. So, uh, what do you think AI will replace certain IT jobs or help people do them better?
Oh, that's one of the things is that AI can at some particular level technically be something that could be used at a help desk level. AI can be used in some of the back office functions, but the problem that they're running into is that they find out that people get very frustrated with AI. That people, if they sense that there is an AI in the phone, that they're going to start taking it personally. I've heard about people pressing AI technology saying, oh, I'm speaking to an AI. What can I say to this AI to prove that it isn't an AI? So a lot of times what people are finding with the AI is that real people tend not to react to it well. And one of the interesting things that I'm wondering about is that in the future, if AI bots start talking to AI bots, will things what will be the result? What will be the tangible results? And how will and what type of problems will that bring up? Because a lot of times when you have computers talking to computers, you run into a problem in which they give you an answer, they give you a solution, but it tends to be wordy or just not necessarily tend to be relevant. And my gosh, it's difficult to try to figure out exactly where AI can go unless it is interfacing with an actual person.
That's a brilliant way to look at it, and uh, you have shaped a very valuable thought. So, sir, my other question is that it's all about AI. How can AI improve system security, maintenance, or database operations?
Well, okay, AI is really good at you can say, all right, I need a database that does this. I need to be able to access it this way. I need to be able to use it for this particular interface. I need it to be able to store these fields. Is it possible for you to normalize things? One of the things that an AI can do is that an AI can give you a very good first take. It can say, all right, you've got this data. All right, this is how I want to store it. And now you can look at that and you can say, this is good here, this is good here, this is good here. But what if I want to do this? So an AI could model something. AI could give you you could say, well, these are the fields that I'm going to need. These are how I'm going to use it. And then it's going to say, here is a database with the 3 levels of normalization that will be able to do these particular things. But the problem being is that someone says, oh, that looks really nice, but what if I just want to query the data and look at various segment fields? So they could take that particular solution and they can say, oh, these 2 particular tables, even though I'm going to be repeating the data, I really need these 2 particular segment layouts to be on the same table. So I'm going to combine them. AI said, you really want to do that, but what you're doing is that you're allowing someone to do a simple query in which they don't have to join 2 tables together and get useful information. So you have the AI, it comes up with a design solution that might be good for from a DP perspective, and then you have a person auditing that design and then looking to see if there might be other tables that are needed, or if there might need to integrate a couple of the segments on the table, a couple of the tables together to make it work better from a human perspective with a little bit of cost at the machine perspective.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your lines and your experience with us. So, sir, my interview part number 4, business, digital creation, and professional insight. So, as a digital creator, what drive your creativity alongside your technical expertise?
Oh, as a digital creator, that's one of the areas in which I have a little bit more input. What I try to do within that particular area is that I am trying to show not necessarily that there's a person who's doing something cool, because there's just too many people doing things that are cool and some things that are quite frankly dangerous. What I try to do is I try to show a world in which there is a person, there is a life behind that particular technology, sharing things and offering insights that I feel will resonate with other individuals. Sometimes there are, like recently when they had the northern lights, and I was a little bit too far south in Texas to see the northern lights, but I said, well, I'm going to make a mission to try to see the northern lights. And I went out and I thought, and I said, well, maybe that little wisp over there, maybe that is technically the northern lights, and that is great. I've gone off on this 3.5 mile walk and I might have seen the northern lights. Of course, I would come home and I would see these beautiful pictures of northern lights from places like Michigan or Montana, or my sister who's farther up north, and they would say, oh, here are the northern lights. And then I would look at my picture, which is a pathetic picture showing technically the northern lights, and I would say, well, I tried to experience what the people up north did, but I didn't. And then there are times where I saw this picture or created this picture in which I showed a kitchen in which the northern lights were literally within someone's kitchen. And I said, I struggle to see the northern lights, but some person in Montana or Michigan, this is their picture. And I would literally show an impossible image of the northern lights inside a kitchen, and that, add a little humor that not everyone can experience all the cool stuff that other people can experience because of where they live.
All right, and that's so true and exactly. I like your point. So, sir, how should companies prepare themselves to survive in a fast changing tech environment?
So companies providing in a fast changing tech environment, one of the things that needs to be done and they need to keep in mind is that a lot of the technologies, the underlying technologies that support computers, are not nearly as trendy as the interface. So what you want to be able to do is that you want to be able to build on a solid IT interface, a solid information technology that is providing things, because no matter how cool and trendy the front end is, or what it's doing, ultimately people want something that is useful to you. So if someone wants a tool in which they're modifying photos, or if someone wants to interface with the bank, ultimately they want to be able to do something useful to them. And the closer that something needs to be useful to them, like a banking application, like an application, in pharmaceuticals, the more people want something that is predictable and practical. The more, if people are not in the gaming environment, they don't want to make a game out of doing everyday things. They want the solution not to be more complicated, not to be more challenging than the task they are doing. So if they're trying to do online banking, make it as easy for them to do online banking as possible. And because they're not, they don't want to have fun with it.
Amazing and interesting. So thank you so much, sir. And before it's time to end my interview time, because I have a class, an online class. So lastly, I'm my last question is that before we close, I would love to take a quick comment for you about your experience with me. Did you enjoy the interview?
Oh yeah, yeah. I enjoyed my experience with you. My apologies for sleeping in, and my apologies for
No,
not
no, no.
shaving this morning. And I know I had a little bit of a little bit of moisture on the thing, but I had a couple of difficulties. I'm glad that you could allow an analog guy to wake up and be able to talk. I did appreciate this one. There have been times in which there was a lot of noise in the background, and I know that people were asking questions and being sincere, and sometimes that noise would distract. Sometimes I had difficulty understanding just a few of the words, but maybe that was me. I had maybe a little wax in my ears. So you're a very easy person to talk to, and a very and very welcoming to everything. I was sort of embarrassed because I kept on thinking that a lot of my answers were just not worthy of the questions you were asking. But I try. I mean, I've been in IT for 40 years, so sometimes those old IT guys like me, we can ramble. But much appreciated, and I appreciate it you, and I appreciate it being able to talk to you on Enterprise. Thank you.
Thank you so much for a good compliment for me. And you all answers are very helping me and my student. So thanks again, sir. So it's time to close our interview. So thank you so much, Mark, for sharing your wisdom, experience, and inspiring journey with us today. It was truly an honor to learn your decades of expertise. We appreciate your time and your clarity and your insight. Wishing you continued success, and we hope we too have you with us again. So thank you so much, sir, again and again and again.
All right. And you're welcome many times over. All right. Thank you
All
for
right.
your time. Bye bye.
Bye.